Hey Joseph, how you doing tonight?
Swell, thank you very much.
Oh, I'm so happy that you have been able to join me here live. It's been quite a few years since I interviewed you last, right? When was it?
Back in December of 2020.
Oh boy, yeah, you were making your first film then, right?
That's right.
And you did real well with it, huh?
Absolutely.
So who are you working on right now for Idaho versus Kohberger and the First Amendment?
Judge Stephen Hippler.
Oh, how is the animation of Judge Hippler coming along for you?
So far, nothing, but that doesn't mean it's not being planned and it'll be ready at the time being.
Is he hard for you as an artist to conceptualize?
No.
No, really. I would think that he'd be a little hard to draw, to recreate.
Well, the only time it will be hard to draw is if you don't concentrate and would definitely not stay focused.
Oh, great. Okay, and how about Mr. Kohberger? Have you started any animation of him yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay, no, but you've done Ann Taylor, right? We have the one that we've dropped, and who else? Do you have Bill Thompson? You're working on too, right?
Bill Thompson and Brett Payne.
Brett Payne. Okay, fantastic. So you got quite a few of the characters, the people involved on the drawing board. All right, so let me get started, Joseph, if you don't mind. Hey, everybody, this is Kathy. I was just taking a few minutes. I have a very special guest this evening. He is the artist that is centrally involved in our indie film that I have been sort of dropping a little bit of hints about. We've done a couple of presentations, one on the podcast and then one on YouTube regarding Idaho versus Kohberger and the First Amendment. That's a 2026 indie film that we've been working on for the past, I don't know, it was about 6-7 months pre-production, Joseph. Is it? Yeah, around that time. Yeah, it's time, right? So we just want to say hello. We have a few people that have joined us this evening, and I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people are getting ready for Halloween around the world. And so thanks, guys, for being here today. Let's see who we have. We have LB, always the first one aboard. Thanks, LB, for being here. And Jackie is waving. Hi, Jackie, Wolf Angel. Hi, Kathy, and all. Bobby, you're saying good evening. What time is it where you are? Because I know we have people from all over the world that are tuning in. I know that a couple of our people from the podcast, which seems to be popular overseas for some reason, Joseph. My first followers were from, believe it or not, Japan when I started the podcast way back when. Do you remember what episode 1 was of the podcast? I know you've been subscribing to it.
No.
Nope. It was the affidavit of probable cause signed by Brett Payne. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. So you're working on him right now. Anyway, everybody, we're here tonight. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Hey. Okay. So Wolf Angel is saying, whoops, I hit the thumbs down by mistake. Oh, you got to fix that, Wolf, please. Hi. Hey, Cece is here from South Africa. Hey, Cece, I didn't know you were from South Africa. Germany in the house. Condensed soup. Everyone, thanks for being here on this. It's evening here. It's just after 8. We're on the East Coast of the United States. And we don't do a lot of lives, but we wanted to do one. We're probably going to be doing a few in the weeks and months to come because we have a very special project that we're working on. It's the independent film. We're already registered with Film Freeway, which is where you go in order to scout for independent film festivals, which what we're probably going to do is premiere it on this YouTube channel, maybe our Facebook page. We don't know as of yet. The trailer will definitely be on the YouTube channel. And Joseph, when do you think the trailer's ready for delivery? What's the estimated target date?
New Year's Eve 2025.
Okay, so it's going to be on or before December 31st?
Yes.
Of this year. Okay, so we're going to do my pleasure in reporting. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Yes, thank you. Welcome. Come on in. We started the podcast 800 and I think it's 34 episodes ago, and we covered just 2 stories. Both of them are attached to Idaho versus Kohberger, 2 cases. One, of course, is the central case, which is Idaho versus Kohberger, which started episode 1 many, 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 many months ago. And that was page 1 of the affidavit of probable cause. And we just put up one, I think it was today, Joseph, if I'm not mistaken, regarding the case summary page mysteriously having gone down for 3 days. Very, very odd case for some reason. Hi, Bridget. And from South Carolina, lovely town of Conway. Hi, everybody. Kylie's here from Australia. We've got quite the international crew here this evening, Joseph, and morning and daytime. And I know that the first ever subscriber to the IndieZoNe podcast from Japan said it's middle of the night. I don't know if it's middle of the night or morning or whatever it is, but he's going to be listening on replay. And he's got a question for you, which I'll give you a little bit later on. So we started the podcast, and then we started to incorporate the Idaho 4 defamation case. And those cases, hey, gee whiz in the house. So glad you made it. Those two cases are so different from a First Amendment reporting perspective. Hey, Karen, New Jersey, very good. The Idaho 4 defamation case, which is Schofield versus Guillard, everything is on the public record. It is so easy to report on that case. The judge, from the day that case was instituted, December 21st, 2022, put everything up regarding the trial, pre-trial, and then all of the documents once it went into litigation. That's the case where there is a TikToker psychic who put out some content, allegedly. I've never seen it, but she was sued by Professor Schofield, a professor of history. I think she's still working at the University of Idaho today, but she certainly was at the time that these tragedies happened back in 2022. So she's sued Guillard for defamation, and reporting on that case has been so easy because the judge has put all the documents on the court docket. The complaint, the answer, it's civil, of course. It's not criminal, but it is closely related to Idaho versus Kohberger because the alleged defamation came because Professor Schofield said that Guillard went out and published some content naming her as being involved in the atrocities at 1122 King Road. And then secondly, alleged that she was having a personal romantic relationship with a student. So that's what that case is about. It's money damages. The trial is going to be, believe it or not, in Boise, which is where Mr. Kohberger's trial was supposed to be, in Boise. But the difference is Schofield trial is February, 4 days, Boise federal court, civil action for defamation. The attorneys representing Schofield are the attorneys who represented the media coalition in Idaho versus Kohberger. And Guillard came into the Idaho versus Kohberger case back in May, and she tried to get Judge Hippler to give her some papers that were under seal for her case. You can just imagine what Judge Hippler said. That was a big fat denied. So I'm not sure if she got those documents. He told her to do a public record request. But anyway, I hope that you'll follow that case because it's getting close to trial as we speak. Now, Kohberger is an entirely different thing in terms of being able to report because it was so difficult. It was so difficult. Oh, CC Ice is saying, I saw those TikToks back in the day. It was crazy. Okay, CC, what do you remember seeing? Because I have never seen them. I haven't researched them. I hear that she's still a presence on YouTube and TikTok, but in the lawsuit, they said that one of her videos about Schofield got something like 2 million likes or something. It was really, it's not a small channel with just a couple of, 100. It was a massive channel. And she was using, supposedly, she called it her psychic abilities. And that's what led her to say that she felt that it was Schofield. And she named a couple of people whose names that are probably very familiar to you, including Mr. Kohberger, regarding what she was seeing in her TikTok images. Now, I don't know if this is before post or pre-arrest, but that's what I remember. So Cece saying she was so damned. Well, that sounds what Rebecca Schofield is saying. She was. Hey, Maggie's here from the great state of Texas. We've got Karen in the house from New Jersey. So we have people from all over the world. I'm telling you, the Kohberger case was like no other in terms of reporting because of the secrecy of the case. That case, as you guys know, prosecuted for over 2.5 years. We have been almost 4 months. It will be 4 months, November 2nd, in a couple of days since he pled guilty. And that case is still largely under seal. There's a reporter who filed a declaration in the Idaho versus Kohberger case that I've covered in a few of my podcasts. And she is an Associated Press reporter based out of Idaho, 26 years of experience. She went to the University of Idaho. She covered this case. She said she cannot, in her career, this is 26 years of reporting, cannot remember a case that was sealed like this. She physically counted the orders that were sealing documents. It's breathtaking. And now we have to add a couple more because Hitler's still sealing things regarding the restitution hearing that's coming up next week. What do you guys think? Yeah, the psychic might be right. The BK case is crazy. Gee whiz, cannot argue with you on that one. It's, now that we're starting to see finally a little bit of it's not really the evidence. The evidence would be, they've talked about the text messages. The evidence would be the actual text messages. We've heard the 911 call. That's evidence. We've heard about the AT&T timing advance records. They've written about it. They've talked about it. They've told us what it says. We've never seen them. And you know what my number one thing on the list is? If there were one thing that I could convince Judge Hitler to release to the public tomorrow, it would have to be that sheath. It is, in my opinion, mind-boggling. It's going to be, 3 years? November 13th. It'll be 3 years, right? Is my math correct?
Yes.
2020. Yeah, 2025. I'm thinking it's 2026. No, it's going to be 3 years. Never seen an image of this sheath. Not an image, video. It wasn't talked about by the 5 first responders in their report. I don't know how so many people can miss it. I really don't. If when Brett Payne went up into that room, he said it was visible from the door, right? And then you get Payne saying it's on the right side. You get the head of ISP who's there and assigned to lead the crime scene investigation. He claims he saw it on Maddie's left side, and then supposedly it's Corbin Smith who's meeting Payne sometime after 4. Corbin Smith is writing his report at 4:06, like what cops do at the end of the day, the end of their shift. He's writing his report from 4:06. He's signing it from 4:17. Body cam isn't working yet. He's supposed to be taking Brett Payne up to the third, through the property. So it's like everything just doesn't make sense. I think that's what Gee Whiz was sort of saying here. So we're kind of hoping that he starts releasing some of the in limine filings. We've got today, actually, the 30th was when the reports were due from both sides, because he's going through this long Pony Express style process of unsealing. Hi, Kathy. So good to see you. Going through this long process of unsealing. The reports were due from the state and the defense today, Joseph, the 30th. Regarding the third batch of documents, and they're real important because that's January, February, March. That's the in limine filings, the motions, the responses, and replies. And there's a bunch of things under seal. I'm hoping, because when Judge Hitler had to make rulings, like on the text messages, were they not going to be admitted into evidence at trial? He had to see those text messages. He's not looking just at Ashley Jennings' grid, saying, at 2:07 or whatever it was, DM places a phone call to the private driver. He calls her back, blah, blah, blah. He's actually seeing the text. I'm hoping that he starts releasing some of the actual physical evidence with this group. So, your 7 is my 6. Hey, guys. Hi, Kathy. Your 7 is my 6. It's what Kathy's saying. Kathy Rutledge has followed me for so long. Kathy, I think you went through the entire podcast series, right? All 800 something episodes. Must have taken you a little bit of time to do that. We curated the entire docket. We have the original case summary page. It's tucked away, all 108 pages of it. Got squished down. It got limited to just 51 pages a couple of weeks ago. Still don't understand why. We also have curated the docket and documented everything that was filed under seal, everything that was on the public record, what the titles were, what the dates. Everything is on that podcast. So that docket could disappear tomorrow, like the CSC did this week. We got everything covered over here. So we have Kathy, we have CC Ice, Kathy, but I've learned so very much. I'm glad, Kathy, because that's my audience, people that follow me dating back to the first days that we did that podcast. We had maybe 3 followers. Like I said, the first was from Tokyo, and then someone from Europe, I think Scotland maybe, and then someone from the States. And they're all people that don't tell me what this stuff says. Give me the abbreviated version. Tell me where I can find it because I want to read it for myself. That's what my followers are. They don't want the state of Idaho. They don't want Judge Hippler. They don't want the defense telling them what the documents and the evidence means. They want to see it for themselves, just like if they were on the jury. And I still don't understand. So we got the idea. After it was just so difficult. I mean, if you look at the podcast, if you go in and plug in the search engine, another item under seal, you're probably going to get a good 50 episodes. Karen Whitaker is saying she wants to see the sheath. I'm with you, Karen. I am waiting for that day patiently of when, we should say if, now that we've got the temporary or now permanent restraining order out of Moscow. It's where the sheath is supposed to be, but I'm hoping we're going to get it. Anyway, getting back to why this film came about. It was real difficult to try to report. I did as best as I could. I tried to read between the lines. I tried to use my background in dealing with legal documents and breaking things down for people, but it was hard because so much was on. You'd go and you say, okay, well, they're responding to discovery request number 21, but document number, exhibit number J is under seal. I mean, J is what they're asking for. So it's like, okay, well, what are they asking for? What could possibly, you're trying to figure out what they're asking for. That's evidence. And it's been that way. And it's still so sealed. Although I'm starting to see people are doing FOIA requests. I heard that a few people got a couple of things over the past few days. I think Lana got the video of Detective Payne interviewing the DoorDash driver, and there were some sketches, I think, of the house that were made by an ISP member who was there. November 13th, he's got the sketches of the house. That was a little bit of a learning experience. But anyway, so I spoke with Joseph. He's the artist for the film. The film is animated, right?
Yes, that's right. It's animated.
Is animation, people think animation, they think that it's kids stuff.
Nope, it's not. Animation has always been a medium, never a genre.
Okay, and you've called it what? 3D or 2D or 1D? What do you call animation?
To me, 2D is what the animation really holds up.
Yeah.
Or you can call it traditional animation.
So in order, now he's working on something. He's going to try to create a scene where Judge Hippler's actually going to be moving in animation. Now, how many images though? In order to get animation to work, because you use what? Pencil and paper for your sketches?
Yes.
Okay. So what's it take to create the illusion of movement?
It takes up 1/24 a second.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a lot of frames that you got to physically create. And then what do? You flip them or do you use a machine?
I flip them one page at a time.
And to create the illusion of movement. So has it been difficult to capture Judge Hippler?
Not at all.
Not really. Okay, so you're doing well with it. Very confident. Can't wait to see this. I can't wait to see. Oh my gosh, Kylie, your channel is an incredible record of this case. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kylie. You made my day. Because sometimes, you create all this stuff and you're wondering, is anybody really, getting any value out of this? The idea that anybody even listens or watches the podcast, listens to it, and takes away stuff, especially about the First Amendment, is very humbling to me. So we decided, after just the nightmare of trying to do a podcast reporting on the documents, when the vast majority of the documents are under seal. I've called it the Mount Everest, literally, of documents under seal. It is massive. Got the idea to do something on the First Amendment. It's not just about, really, it's the Kohberger case is a backdrop. The real story here is the First Amendment, and what I think has been an erosion of it. I know that some of you watch, a lot of you are very, very interested writing Kohberger. Maybe not so much, but starting to learn a little bit about Schofield versus Guillard. But you've watched other cases this year. One that comes up a lot is Delphi in Indiana, right? The 2017 case with the two young teenagers, the girls so tragic, that just went to trial this year. And that case was extremely secretive. No wonder Payne's working in the photocopy room of U of I. Kylie's reporting Brett Payne's current whereabouts. He's missing. He's been missing in action a very long time. Last time I saw him was at that press conference where they were all congratulating each other after Mr. Kohberger's sentencing on the 23rd. He's been nowhere to be found. He's supposed to be the lead detective in the case. It's who's giving interviews. It's the chief of police, Dallinger. It's the detective over from the ISP. Where's Payne? Payne's nowhere to be found. So this is, Kathy, thank you. We're hopeful that it will be. So concerned about the Delphi case. It was not televised. Everything was secret. They made it so difficult for people, for citizens to do what our Constitution says. Our country was set up that anyone should be able to walk into any courtroom in the country, with some exceptions. Maybe in a juvenile case or a family case, those proceedings are closed. But for the most part, everything else, ladies and gentlemen, should be open to the public. And the Delphi case was extremely closed. Not as closed as Kohberger, in my opinion, but extremely closed. And what they did, instead of inviting in citizens, journalists, even mainstream media, there's journalists and then there's mainstream media. They went in and they had, the indignity. They had to sleep outside in the cold some nights, and then what if they needed to, go to the washroom or to get something to eat? They just made it so difficult. Why not do one thing I like that Hitler did for the trial that never happened? He said he was going to do some sort of a lottery, in terms of first come, first serve, and you get tickets to get inside the courtroom or the overflow room. Why didn't they do that in Delphi? Why make people have to stand asleep outside, and then go in exhausted? And then people were reporting how difficult it was once they went inside. You couldn't leave. It was so, in my opinion, it sounded like, and in my opinion, just researching, made it so difficult. And it really didn't have to be. Trials, the citizens of this country, judges are public servants. They're not kings. I've seen that quoted in a couple of cases, appellate cases from the United States District Court. I think it's the 4th District, reminding judges are not kings. They're public servants. And to treat the citizens like that, who are wanting to come in and do their constitutional duty to make sure that judges who have enormous power, that prosecutors that have enormous power, that law enforcement who have enormous power, and yes, even defense attorneys who have enormous power, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they are serving the public, and they are doing what's right in a democracy in the manner that the framers of the Constitution, the 13 original states that demanded the Bill of Rights, wanted. Because that system, when you think about it on paper, when it works beautifully. It's a simple system, by the people, for the people. And I'm not liking this trend. I don't want to see this become a precedent where now trials you can come up with some type of excuses. Oh, someone's privacy rights, this one, that, the other thing. We're trying to keep police procedures under seal. Police procedures under seal. What police procedures? Looking at these police procedures, you not only should keep it under seal, it should be, some of them, in my opinion, should be thrown out in the garbage. I mean, it was not that you're expecting. I mean, people are human, law enforcement's human, but you're not going to ask one of the first questions out of your mouth, why didn't you call for 8 hours? It's things like that. Interviewing people in front of other people on the street rather than taking them downtown, asking the follow-up questions. There was a lack of that. I'm afraid to watch this Payne interview of the DoorDash driver. I have read the document, his report, but when you see it, the reports that we've seen look very different from the documents. Has anyone seen the Payne report yet? The Payne interview of Molly? Hey, Sharon's from Idaho. Good to see you, Shannon. Has anyone seen? I'm just really wondering if he asked the hard questions and they were the follow-up questions, because I think with there was a couple that were really good. I thought, there was a couple that really were good. I think that Officer Warner, this is just my opinion, he was very much on top of things when he got there, the way that he was, his approach and everything else. What I was really concerned about is the number of people that entered that crime scene. They not a scientist, but I've read a lot, and they say you want to limit a crime scene because everyone who walks through drops their DNA. They may not even know skin cells, hair, tears, or they take DNA with them. So there were just so many people in and out, up and down those steps multiple times. Removing a dog, it's like, well, what are you doing? Removing, disturbing. ISP is not even there yet. Maybe there was evidence on Murphy and he needed to be clipped. It's ISP. They're going to come in. They're going to do their review. Give them the opportunity. He had food there. He had water. You close the door. I don't understand why. Oh, ISP. Right. Joseph, remind ISP did clip Murphy in January. In January, they remembered to clip Murphy. That's the dog, Gailey's dog. So Chatty, so Chatty Chick is saying, horrible interview. He lost her down the King Road path. Kathy's saying she hasn't seen it yet. Okay, G Wiz is saying something interesting here. He said, is this Payne? Did a little bit better on this one? Is what I think G Wiz is reporting. So anyway, after doing so many of these episodes, looking at this case, looking at it, upside down, I cannot tell you how many times I've read, the first 18 episodes was the 18-page affidavit of probable cause. Episode 1 was page 1. Episode 10 was page 10. Episode 18 was when Payne is asking for the warrant for Mr. Kohberger's arrest based on everything that came before, and then he signs it under penalty of perjury. How many times I read that document back, forth, and now I recently reread it, and it's quite startling. Now to go back, because we didn't know anything. We as the public knew nothing when that PCA dropped in early January, when it did. We went back as the case progressed, but now to go back after the case ended, I picked up quite a few errors my first time around. Like he put a town in Idaho, in Indiantown, I think it was. He put it in Washington when it was in Idaho. Is Shannon here? Shannon, where is Indiantown? Because I keep mixing them up. I have to go back to the PCA to remember if Payne said it was in trying to track suspect vehicle 1's travels, that Indiantown was in Washington when it was really in Idaho, or vice versa. He's referring to how important was the 8458 phone, right? The cell phone that was later used as the basis for the timing advance records to try to track the travels of SV1. He's calling it 8458 phone. Sometimes it's the 85 for he's transposing the numbers. 8458 on a couple of pages, then it becomes the 8548 phone. I said, did he subpoena the records for the right phone? And he's calling Kohberger, Mr. Kohberger, a couple of times. I said, did they arrest the right person? It's just, he has Kaylee in Madison, at the Grub Truck at 1:30, but they're also still at the Corner Club at 1:30. I don't care how many times you try to say, hey, oh, well, it's on Mountain Time when it really should be on Pacific Time. 1:30 is 1:30. He can't be at two locations at one time, those two girls. So, okay. So, hey, Twizzle Stick, speaking of people who have disappeared, very happy to have you in the room. I must say, if anyone knows Twizzle Sticks, he actually went to several hearings. He went to a hearing. I think it wasn't at the in limine hearings that you were at, Twiz. That massive day-long event in Judge Stephen J. Hippler's courtroom in early April. He also was in Judge John Judge's courtroom at other times as well. Twizzle is reporting he said he was in Idaho when he should have been in Washington the day after going to Costco. Right. So we decided a few months back, look, we got to do something. We got all of this content. We got 800 and something pages of the podcast, which curated the docket. We got the original case summary page. We got all of these tools. I've got Joseph, who's the animator. He's wanting to do a second film. Agreed to do this. We've said it's going to be on the First Amendment. That's why it's called Idaho versus Kohberger the First Amendment. And what it's going to do, we dropped a few of Joseph's artwork. You did. How long did it take you to do Ada County?
Less than 5 minutes.
No, it couldn't have been. That's it, really?
Yep.
That quick. Okay, he did a courthouse. I would have thought for me it would have taken me 6 days maybe to create it. But he did a mock-up of an old school courthouse, and it's called Ada County. And then we have January 23rd. That's the day of the motion to suppress hearings and the Franks hearings, all of which were denied, many of which were held behind closed doors. Remember, that hearing started behind closed doors. And then when the media put some pressure on, Hippler decides to release the transcript. Redacted, of course. That's available on the court docket in February. So Joseph did a mock-up of, who was it? Was it Ann Taylor or was it Delisa? It was Ann Taylor, right?
Ann Taylor.
Ann
yes.
Taylor. He did a mock-up of Ann Taylor. He's done a few frames where she's up there. She's arguing for a granting of the motion to suppress. It might have been having to do with the warrant, if I'm not mistaken, the warrant that is based on the PCA. The warrant for Mr. Kohberger's arrest that Judge Marshall issued December 29th is based on the PCA. It says so right on it. So she's arguing for the suppression of that warrant. That warrant gets thrown out. Then the evidence, the fruit of that warrant, gets thrown out. So she was up there. She's making a few points. I had a couple of concerns about she's sort of not addressing standing, what standing Mr. Kohberger have regarding the testing of the sheet and so forth. I had a concern about that portion. And that's when Hippler comes back with his infamous lines. Who remembers that line? Twizzle, do you remember that line? I think you were in the courtroom. Yeah, you were in a few in Boise. Oh, I didn't know Twizzle Stick went to sentencing. Went to the sentencing hearing. News to me. Twizzle, do you remember that infamous quote? Not the one, because there was a couple of them that he made. Remember the very first day after change of plea? When he said something like, I wish I could say I was happy to be here, but why start with the mistruth? But the one that almost became the title for the film, I'm going to tell you, we went with Idaho, right? Idaho versus Kohberger, Joseph, and the First Amendment.
Wouldn't work.
That would work, right? Because you as an artist, what's the most important thing about the First Amendment to you?
First Amendment to me.
Censorship. Yeah.
Freedom of speech. No censorship.
Yeah, you don't like to be censored, do you?
No.
You've been censored a few times with some of your artwork, but
because to me, there's like revealing the facts that's going on with this case. There is no excuse hiding facts under the rug anymore, right?
Well, I'm telling you, call up your friend Judge Hippler and explain that to him, would you please? But anyway, I'm only kidding. But anyway, let's look at what some of the people are saying in chat. Hey, Amy is in the house. Good evening, Amy. Always happy to be here. And she's got her Halloween emojis. Look, she's got a ghost. She's got a pumpkin. And Twiz is saying, BK knew I was going to be there. He smiled at you. Mr. Kohberger, Brian Kohberger smiled at Twiz. And first hearing with Hippler. Kathy, okay, first hearing with Hippler. That's right. Hippler and Judge John Judge are in on it, in my opinion, is what Twizzlestick is saying, exercising his First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, expression, and so forth. So we decided we're going to make this film concerned about this trend of these cases being under seal from the public and being so, I think, in my opinion, anti-public, especially with what happened with Delphi. We'll never know what the Kohberger trial was going to be like because it, didn't happen. But Whitney's here from Western Australia. Very nice. Glad to have you, Whitney. What time is it in Australia? What time is it down under? So we're doing the film. The spoken words are coming from the podcast. We have episodes of the podcast we've singled out for certain episodes. The alternate title of the film was going to be in Twice on Sunday. That's what we threw up one of your images of, I'm sorry, who was it again? Which one of the defense? Ann Taylor. We put up one of the images of Taylor, and then the
Lady Justice.
Yeah, Lady Justice too. Mm-hmm. But with Taylor, we had the words where she's arguing with Hippler. This is January 23rd. It's called that because that was the day of the hearings, right, Joseph? And so she's arguing, Judge Hippler, we would like, we believe that this motion to suppress in the motion for Frank's hearing should be granted. And then it got into a discussion about probable cause because that's what needs to be shown, right? Motion to suppress. It was proper probable cause. And that's when he came out with his infamous line, DNA at the crime scene, your client's DNA at the crime scene is probable cause every day of the week and twice on Sunday. The film was almost called Twice on Sunday because of that line and what it meant regarding the key. In my opinion, that sheath is everything. That sheath is the case. For him to say, okay, basically missed all of your motion, and there was like, 13, 14 of them, all going to be denied because DNA left at the crime scene from your client is probable cause every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Where is this sheath? Where are the three separate analyses, the forensic analysis, right? The first one, who knows where the first one happened? Amy, do you remember where the first analysis of the sheath was? Twiz, Lily. Hey, Lily, I'm very happy you're here. Charm free, no worries. We're here for a while. Yep, Amy is on top of the facts. Amy is one who demands to see the documents. She doesn't want to be told. She's saying the first analysis happened at the Idaho State Police lab in Idaho, right? But it didn't happen on the 13th. They had all these people from ISP walking around that house. Once they see the sheath, whether it was at 4 o'clock, whether it was at 5 o'clock, whether it was at 12 o'clock, whenever it was, wouldn't you think it would have immediately been brought to the lab? Immediately. Because what do they say? After 48 hours, if you don't have a POI, person of interest, a suspect, the trail starts getting cold. They're already 8 hours behind because the crimes, according to Ellie, the state, happened at 4:07 to approximately, we've heard 4:25, right? That's in the PCA. Started at 4 o'clock, ended at 4:25. Yet in the PCA, it says at 4:20, suspect vehicle 1 is seen speeding out of the neighborhood at a high rate of speed. Make that make sense. You got a single perp, not multiple, no co-conspirators, no accessories before the fact, no accessories after the fact. Yet, on the one hand, Detective Payne is convincing Judge Marshall is one suspect. The crimes concluded at 425, but he was seen speeding out of the neighborhood at a high rate of speed at 420. Who's still in the house from 420 to 425 if that is true? Hey, Whitney's doing housework, multitasking. Lily, I agree. Lily is saying it is so strange that they haven't produced the sheath. Amy is saying, in my opinion, the sheath was already in Maddie's room. It was Maddie's, in my opinion. Quite a few people share your belief, Amy, that the sheath belonged to Maddie. Maybe someone grabbed it for protection, slept with it for protection. A lot of people have said that. Where's the proof? You know, when I have to tell you, when I started to see these motions in limine, and the state is saying that Mr. Kohberger purchased a K-bar, a sharpener, and a sheath in early 2022, and it went to his house and he used a gift card to do it. That's part of the stuff, hopefully, that's going to be unsealed, because remember the clicks, the AT&T clicks? That's an in limine proceeding. And there's stuff under seal regarding that. How great would it be if that receipt was under seal? Where's that receipt? Where's the receipt for the sheath, the sharpener, and the K-bar that was sent to Monroe County, Pennsylvania from Amazon in early 2022 and supposedly made the trip across the country with the sheath being left in Madison Mogen's bedroom? Where's that evidence? Where's the sheath? Where's the testing? All right, so Amy has correctly reminded all of us that the first testing happened at the ISP lab. What day did it happen? Does anyone know when the ISP began testing on that sheath? It's talked about in that transcript from January 23rd. No dates there, though. Everything that matters is hidden in secret, is what Karen's saying. I agree with you. Charm free on top of things. She's saying November 17th. Why aren't you saying the 13th, charm free? Why aren't you saying the 14th? Why aren't you saying the 15th? Why aren't you saying the 16th? Why are you saying November 17th? Is it possibly from the ISP records that said that after ISP concluded the first day of processing the crime scene and left at sometime after midnight, the sheath was given to Detective Brett Payne for safekeeping? Is that why? Left, yeah, charm free is recalling exactly what the ISP records tell us. The sheath was in Moscow until the 16th. It was not picked up. Where is the chain of custody for that sheath? If that chain of custody looks anything like the number of people that ran up and down the steps and were in that house, I don't know. But anyway, so we understand. Amy has correctly stated that the first lab to test it was the Idaho State Police, but it didn't stop there, right? Wasn't a second lab then contracted to do work on that sheath? Or not the sheath. Nope. Second lab never saw the sheath, never touched the sheath, never. And that's another misconception. And we're here to get rid of these misconceptions that seem to go out there. That the second lab tested the sheath. They did not. They tested what? The DNA profile that was extracted at the ISP lab. Anybody remember the name of that second lab? Boy, oh boy, they're all over the place. They're doing interviews. They were at CrimeCon, weren't they? Weren't they present at CrimeCon? Again, congratulating themselves on the work that they did in this case. Hey, we got Othram in Texas. Hey, Amy's coming through with the facts tonight. Othram. Who remembers how the DNA profile make it from the ISP lab in Idaho to the Othram lab located just outside of Texas, specifically Houston? Kathy, I don't know. You know, there's okay. So what Kathy is saying here, Kathy, people are saying it was a lie about BK buying it, but he did purchase it, right? Well, that's what the public has been told. Remember, there used to be this way before your time. You guys are much, much younger than me. Show me the beef. Remember, there was a Wendy's commercial back in the 1980s. Show me the beef. Or what about Tom Cruise in the 90s? Show me the money. Show us the evidence of this purchase. Where is the evidence of this Amazon purchase of a K-bar, a sheath, and a sharpener? Has anyone seen it? I certainly haven't. You know why? Because it hasn't been released to the public. Oh, is AR here? Hey, AR is here tonight. Good evening, all. Love and respect to you as well. If anyone is not following A Convict's Thoughts with AR Hayes and his wife, I believe she is the co-producer of yours. She's also been online several times. Please do. AR brings a very important perspective to the field of independent journalists attempting to report on this secretive case, picking up where MSM have bungled this ball so much. I mean, no one's talking about the fact that documents are probably going to remain under seal until I'm predicting until 2027. He's not going to get to the beginning of 2023, where a lot of, as the Harsh would put it, the meat and potatoes are, because that's the evidence from the beginning of the case. He is only at January, February, March of 2025 right now. That's the third order. The two responses were due today. Then Hippler's got to look at it. Hippler may decide that he needs to do a second order and ask for some clarifying information. We might not be seeing any of this documentation he decides to turn over until maybe Thanksgiving. And who knows when the fourth order is going to come out. I'm predicting it's going to be 2027 before he gets done. And that is mind-boggling. A case this big, this under seal. So AR has been doing a great job because he's got a lot of inside scoop, having been inside prisons, you know, some including where Mr. Kohberger is right now. Does anyone think that he's going to be at this hearing next week on the 5th? Now, mainstream media reported it as though he was. I read something that said that defense said he wasn't going to be there on the 5th. But mainstream media in an interview that I watched today said, oh, there's going to be a hearing on restitution on the 5th. Mr. Kohberger will be there. The only thing that makes me they said no. Charmfree's right. Defense said that Kohberger decided he didn't need to be at this. And I said, A.R. Hayes, why would Mr. Kohberger not jump at the chance of getting out of 23-hour per day solitary confinement for any reason? For any reason. And this is when we thought this was going to be a live hearing, right? And make that trek to the state courthouse in Boise. And AR enlightened me. I didn't know this. He said because he's got to pay for his own transportation. You know, he might not have that money, right? Okay, AR is saying, I don't think he will miss it. He will just go for the trip. Okay. Okay, very good. BK knew Hippler was not worth his time all. Denied. Well, Amy is reminding us of the many, many, many orders that were denied in the case. You know, Joseph and I were sitting here, we were trying to do some brainstorming, and we were going over how many motions were actually granted. I remember the street clothes motion was granted. That was granted. He was able to wear his street clothes by Judge Hippler and also Judge John Judge. Going back to the Latah County days, of course, the motion for change of venue after 9 months of battling, that was granted. Who thinks that was a mistake? Some people say that was the worst decision. He should have stayed in Latah County. Other people say he would have gotten the same. They think he would have gotten the same result. It could have been in Latah County. It could have been It could have been Ada County. It could have been any other county in Idaho. He would have gotten the same result. Since he was so locked up in restitution anyway, might as well go. They take 30% of all deposits. Either way, can't take much more, so might as well go. Right? Same result. Amy's saying she thinks it would have been the same result anyway. Let's go back to what we were saying before. So Othram, how does that? Now, again, anyone who says that the sheath was tested at Othram, please, everyone, if you're out there, we're trying to debunk these rumors, big and small, about this case. That sheath never went anywhere near Othram. That sheath left Moscow. It went to the Meridian ISP lab. At some point, it was returned to Moscow. As far as we know, Moscow still has possession of it. They needed it for trial, right? The state needed to have it with all of the other evidence that would have presumably been brought into the courtroom for trial. So, Christine's saying she wasn't a fan of any of the judges. Okay, you got a selection of Judge Megan E. Marshall, Judge John Judge, and Judge Stephen J. Hippler. So how did that DNA profile get from Meridian, Idaho, to just outside of Houston, Texas? Who was the the taxi cab driver who got it? The chauffeur of the sheath of the DNA profile. BK had no shot. Twiz is saying there was no shot for BK. One of the officers, yes, Whitney is correct. One of the officers took it. Do we know who it was?
Evidence presented it. More
evidence.
Like it's missing.
The evidence is, well, this sheath appears to be missing, Joseph. You're right. I'll believe it when I see it. Yes. Okay. Whitney is saying that one of the officers took it. Yes, Whitney. He was you're thinking of him probably because he was the first on scene from what we know. He was the first responder. I mean, Warner was like right on his heels, but it was literally boots on property. 1122 would have been Nunez. Lily is so close. She's thinking it's Brett Payne. Who was Brett Payne attached to by the hip? Including, we're not sure who drove from the MPD to 1122, arriving at approximately 4 p.m., November 13th, 2022, but that's the answer. Blacker, that's right. Sergeant Blacker, now, I guess he's Captain Blacker, made the travels from Moscow up to Meridian and then to the airport. He said that the DNA profile was in a backpack. It went through, who's where you go through not ISP, where you go through the X-ray system when you're going on the airport.
The TSA.
Oh yeah, TSA. It went through TSA. It went through through the X-ray system there. I'm wondering how secure that precious evidence was, that profile was in Blacker's backpack. But he's saying, and he said he got on the plane, then it landed, and then probably either, I don't know if he took a taxi, took an Uber, if he got a rent-a-car, and then he took it to Houston, turned it over to Othram. Now, wouldn't you like to see the chain of custody from that bed on the 3rd floor, 1122 King Road, to Othram? Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yup, charm free. I don't know why I couldn't remember it. TSA. Yeah. Hey, good to see you here at our live. Thank you. All right. So Othram is the second organization that tested it. Wasn't there one more? Wasn't Othram told, or somewhere around the 10th of December, stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100. Stop work on that profile. We will take it from here. Right? Yeah. Amy's got all three. It's the feds. The feds did the last. And who remembers when the call? Yeah, Karen's got it too. So it was the 10th of December, from what the public's been told, pursuant to the records that we've been allowed to see. On the December 10th is when the lab from Houston, okay, stop doing what you're doing. We'll take it from here. Several days later is when Detective Brett Payne said on the stand that they got a call. And it was the first time that the name Brian Kohberger came to law enforcement's attention. Do you remember what day that was? It had to be sometime after the 10th, because that's when the feds took over testing. One day after your birthday. One day after your birthday, Joseph. December
19th.
That's right. It was December 19th. Yeah, there we go. Kylie got it. Charm Free got it. Joseph got it with a big hit from me. It was the evening of the 19th that supposedly Detective Payne, while sitting in, it must have been a war room at MPD, they did a Teams interview and they were told, look at Brian Kohberger. Look at Brian Kohberger. 10 days later, Leslie and Billy, hey, no, don't say sorry. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. The 19th and then the 29th is when he signs the affidavit of probable cause. 10 days. That seemed like a really short period of time. And we don't have the evidence yet. You know, we'd like to see those warrants. I'd like to see that trap and trace, that pen trap and trace. I want to see the results. I want to see the sheath. I want to see the results from the 3 labs that examine that sheath. I want to see the chain of custody for that sheath. I'd like to see the text messages. I'd like to see the timing advance records. I want to see the stuff from Amazon. All this is under seal. All this is under seal. Right. Oh boy, Kylie is referring. Are you referring to the infamous Judge Stephen J. Hippler homework assignment? Okay, there were a couple of real shockers in this case. For me, hearing the news that he pled and there was a plea deal, it hit me like a ton of bricks that day. We were doing a live, and people had started, hey, there's news out there that Mr. Kohberger's taking a plea, and what? The other thing, a close second was learning during the in limine proceedings that the defense was not going to use the IGG. Nothing. And it was like, what? I mean, that was one of the most hotly contested issues. We learned through a document that was just released. It was the trial brief that they said they just didn't have the discovery back from the state and they didn't understand it and they didn't want to go to trial not understanding that process. That's why they put IGG on to the side for trial. But it was Judge Hippler then told both sides, okay, since none of you are going to be mentioning IGG, you come up with a jury instruction of what Detective Payne is supposed to say on the stand, so that the jury is told, basically, we got Mr. Kohberger's name through a tip, and then the jury was going to be instructed. Now, don't concern yourself anything further. Okay, don't look behind that closed green door over there. Don't ask questions. The only thing that because Hippler's the trier of the law, right? He instructs the jury. Everything else is irrelevant. The tip came in December 19th. I think that's what Kylie was referring to. Yup, Karen, they certainly did. Because they were in a little bit of a dilemma after fighting like cats and dogs for a year and a half, close to 2 over IGG. How many hearings did they have? How many motions to compel? How much discovery was served? What about, the hearings in front of, this was all in Latah County with Judge. He was going to take a look in camera. What could be released? What was not going to be released? There was certain information released. There was certain information not released. There was an airtight, only these people can have access to this information. I mean, it was as hotly contested a thing in this case. And to learn in limine, sorry, my bad. We're not going to talk about IGG. It was such a shock. It was such a shock. So then Hitler realizes, well, we got to figure out, you guys figure out, which we're going to tell the jury. And that's when they had to come up with the jury instruction. It was just released. You could take a look at it. We did an episode of it on the IndieZoNe not long ago, a few days ago, if you'd like to read it. I adore you too, Bianca. Thank you. Hey, WB, number one, always here for everything. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much, Leslie and Billy. Glad that you're here. Leslie and Billy, I think that your mom was in the hospital a couple weeks ago. I hope that everything was okay. So after this experience, we decided Joseph has been looking for a second project to do after his first one on school violence a few years back. He agreed to do this. We're going to be taking the words, spoken words, the lines that the people, the indie people that are going to be doing the acting. They're not going to be on camera. This is totally independent. We do not subscribe to anything mainstream media. This isn't going to be like a Dateline episode where we're going to see a bunch of talking heads getting explaining. This is about the First Amendment and how the battering that's it's taken with these two cases between Delphi and, spare no expense. Kohberger, worst case of so much, in my opinion, under seal. We cannot tolerate this. We can't tolerate another case like this in this democracy. We just can't. This is not Iran. It's not Iraq where they do secret trials, where people are told this is what it is, like we were 5 years old, and mommy and daddy's going to tell us what things say, and we can't question. No, that's not. This is the United States. And we cannot, in my opinion, tolerate another case like this. It cannot be used as a precedent. So therefore, we've been doing a few things on the side too. Joseph, a lot of our followers, they have been invoking one of the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment, which is to petition their government for grievances over how this case operated, how Delphi operated. They don't like having closed and sealed criminal trials. And so they have been writing their legislators. They have been making phone calls. I know people have been signing petitions. That's what it takes. And what one person said is that they placed a phone call to their legislator and talked about this case. And it was like they got immediate attention because nobody calls. Nobody writes. Everybody thinks, somebody else will do it. And so when they get a call, you get a legislative assistant. And boy, oh boy, this person said, my goodness, I got red carpet treatment. I got my concern across. Now, what's going to happen? I don't know. I said, listen, that's not you did your duty as a citizen. You petitioned government for a grievance. You said you do not appreciate being treated as though you're not a citizen and you don't have, or a member of the public, and you don't have obligations to make sure that the jury system is operating properly. In all cases, much less a case of this magnitude that has garnered global attention. 4 months after it closed, it's still garnering attention. So if a case like this could be sealed as much as it was, what hope does somebody who's maybe brought up on charges for something lesser than what Mr. Kohberger was, and holding the state to their burden of beyond a reasonable doubt? That's supposed to be a very high evidentiary standard. We don't know how close the evidence was because the evidence, of course, is under seal. So it becomes this circular argument. So that's what this movie's about. Joseph is working on, I think he's drawing Hitler right now as we're sitting here. Is that what you do? He's pencil on paper. Anybody have any questions? So Leslie, but Kathy, you're so good at this on your best options. Why did he plead? Why? All this we can see. I don't know. Leslie, I don't know. Maybe he was afraid, of the DP. He didn't exactly have things going his way with the rulings. I mean, let's do a quick countdown. And Twiz, if I'm wrong, jump in, because I know you've been to several of the hearings. The first set of hearings that were held before Judge Hippler were the ones to strike the DP. There were multiple. I think there were 10 of them, different grounds to strike the DP, get it off the table. So the most he would be looking at would be life. How many of those 10 did he win? 0. He lost every one of those arguments. The next were truly important. I mean, DP, of course, is important, but I don't even want to get into why did he leave Pennsylvania to begin with, where there was a governor who was staunchly against the DP without trying to work a deal. Why run back? You're in your home state. The governor there is trying to abolish the DP. He gives talks about people that have been wrongly convicted, went on, capital, and then they were proven not guilty when DNA was tested. Why are you running from Pennsylvania to rush back to Idaho, where they have the DP? They're not afraid to use it. They're talking about getting the firing squad, but that's a story for another day. The suppression hearings and the Franks hearings, that was January 23rd, 24th. He won exactly 0 of those. And that was important because that meant what evidence is admissible, what's not admissible at trial. Then the in limine, looking for rulings, most of which did also include what would be admissible, not admissible at trial. He lost them, the important ones. Then I think the nails, if you want to say, for want of a better term, I think what really hurt of the 2 that happened right before he pled, the alternate perpetrators, lost that one, but I think the one he should have won, because of what was going on at that time, was the motion to adjourn the trial. No excuses for Hippler not to adjourn, given that we had Dateline Gate happened, right? Where you had evidence that was under seal. The public couldn't see. We were told for 2.5 years, nope, you can't see this evidence. You can't see a photograph. You can't see video of suspect vehicle 1. You can't see stuff from his phone, allegedly. You can't see, and all of a sudden it's on Dateline. How does that happen? And then the books before the trial was done, and the interviews, and I've watched most of them, if not all of them, and they were not pro-defense. They were, for the most part, this guy's guilty. I don't even think I saw very much of, well, our Constitution says that a person is cloaked with the presumption of innocence until or unless at trial the jury comes back with he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So it was very hurtful to his position. And Hippler said, hey, this is going to cause us to have a really hard time trying to seat a jury, and that's all about due process. He had a right, just like any criminal defendant, to an impartial jury. And Hippler said, all of this is beyond, this is over, off the chart publicity right before trial. That Dateline episode could not have come at a worse time. I mean, it was like May 9th or something. Then the final pretrial conference was days later, and that's when Hippler got all upset and issued the two orders, document hold orders. And now they got this supposed investigation to try to find. Why wasn't that? Seriously, they couldn't find who the source of that leak was within 4 days. I don't know. Then how could the governor frame people? Is what Twiz wants to know. I think BK really thought he would be found not guilty, is what Kylie's saying. Poor BK thought the system worked the way it should. Well, a lot of people do, Twiz, until they're caught up in it. The system, sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. And it was a capital case. You know how hard it is to try to get a jury verdict overturned. It's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. WB saying, I'm against the DP according to let him who is without a sin cast the first stone. A lot of people, religious, they would have been stricken from the jury because they could not, convict no matter what. It wasn't, they would say, hey, a lot of people, hey, it's, I cannot convict. Religious beliefs, personal beliefs. And it would have been very interesting to watch the process of jury selection and to see this trial. I would have really enjoyed. I was planning on it. I was, putting time in my schedule. We were going to do lives. We're going to do everything. And then it comes back and it's like, what? Pled? So, okay. I'm against the DP. And Meg's in the house. Meg, hey, welcome. Does anyone have any questions regarding our film? Because that was a topic. Joseph's been sitting here. He's been drawing a few things. Hey, how is the... have you started Mr. Thompson yet, Joseph?
No, I haven't. You'll have to wait for a while.
Okay, because you're working on Hitler right now and trying to do some animation with Hitler, right? Okay.
Can't do everything all at once, and being multitasked for it is completely unhealthy.
Well, and also you do your work behind closed doors in private too, right?
Absolutely. Don't want to be doing it at the wrong place and at the wrong time, let alone with the wrong people, like unprofessional mannerism people that serve out justice for this Idaho versus Kohberger is what's causing it to keep going on. Just because justice is served doesn't mean it was once and for all.
Right. No, a lot of people agree with you. They think this case isn't over yet. They think that there's a big reason why this case, okay, Meg is saying this case is bad for her health. I mean, when you're invested, a lot of people are invested to the point where they are reading the documents. Look at Twiz. Twiz is going to hearings. He's taking time out of his life. A.R. Hayes is going to hearings with his wife. You're invested. And then, to see him in person and wonder, a lot of people, they think that, and without seeing the evidence, how can you be convinced if it was one people to? I'm more and more convinced as I see the evidence that I doubt one person could have committed this. Have you seen? Now, of course, we don't have the autopsy results. They have not been released. And we don't have clear photographs. There was the one photograph, I think, that couple of photographs from Zana's room that was released early. And now because of the injunction that came out of Moscow, we're not going to be seeing the sheath. The only thing, the one that I'm most interested in, seeing the sheath at 12 noon, the position of it when that first responder, when it first fought. I can't say fight because one of the first responders' body cam wasn't working. 4, Warner, Nunez, Snyder, and Gunderson, seeing what their body cam showed at 12, 12:02, 12:20. Some of them went back up and forth a couple of times. We're not. Yeah, a lot of times, Kylie, they, defense. Yeah, Kylie's bringing up a good point. The state began giving interviews right after sentencing, right? They did their first, they didn't even leave the Ada County Courthouse. They did their first press conference where they were congratulating themselves. I think Twizzler was there. Twiz was there. And they started from them. They gave a lot more interviews. Of course, the one that I really enjoyed was Anjanette Levy's interview of the chief of police, Dallinger, who credits Detective Payne for finding the sheath. Now, Sergeant Blacker has a completely different perspective. He says it was ISP who found the sheath. We don't know. We don't know who found that sheath. How many public defenders have won a DP case? I've tried to find. I don't know. That's a good question. That would be an interesting project to do. How many public defenders have won a DP case across the country? Good question. Same here, Brand. Love you too. Thank you for being here. So, getting back to the film, we're in production, not pre-production. We were pre-production a few months ago. We're going to have the trailer done. We're going to have it on this. It's going to premiere on this YouTube channel. Joseph has said December 31st. We'll have the trailer. We want to get the film. It's animated in the can. by hopefully the spring, if not the summer of 20. We don't want to go beyond. We don't want to be like Judge Hippler going into 2027, still looking at documents from the case, whether to seal or unseal. So that's it. I've heard Alyssa Massoth had 2 of the 8 cases. Oh, okay. Kylie is saying that she has heard that Alyssa Massoth has had 2 out of 8 cases overturned. Interesting that Mr. Kohberger still has his entire team. They all signed with the exception of Jay, but Jay was not going to be. Jay Logston took a back seat in the case. And he was hardly present in Ada County. He was present a lot in Latah, Ada. He maybe did a couple of arguments on the DP case, but is Twizzlestick still in the room? Hippler is saying in one of the post-sentencing filings, it may have even been the post-sentencing filings, where he said that he named all of the attorneys that were in the room, and he said that Jay was there as well. I wanted to find out from Twiz if he recalls seeing Jay Logston there. But in any event, Mr. Kohberger has all of the same attorneys. He's got that same team who surrounded him at sentencing. AT has removed the DP on another case, Amy is reporting. I know she got a conviction overturned because law enforcement perjured himself on the stand, and the case was reversed for that reason. That was Ann Taylor. And that's when she was a public defender, because, of course, that was before she represented Mr. Kohberger. And at the beginning of her representation of Mr. Kohberger, she was the lead public defender for, what was it, Kootenai County, I believe. Massoth is amazing. She's very dedicated. It was interesting to see the body language. Twizzlestick, I hadn't seen Jay since Latah. I got to Boise after he took a back seat. Right. But Twiz, Judge Stephen J. Hippler had stated in the order of July 23rd, the final sentencing order, in order for him to be taken to the prison from the Ada County Jail, like that day, 5 minutes after the hearing. It looked like it was very quick. Said in that order, page 1, that Logston was at the sentencing hearing. I remember seeing him there. Sometimes he'd be in Boise, but he wouldn't be sitting at the defense table. He'd be sitting in the back. He'd be sitting in the gallery with people that went to see the trial. I had to leave Birdie because he was demanding to go over the dot. Oh, the dot. I tried my best. Okay. Jeff Nye going. Yes. Whitney bringing out a really important point. What do you guys, did you guys get the same impression that Attorney Jeff Nye, he was very prevalent in Latah County? He argued, he wrote so many key filings, and he seemed to become quiet once things got to Latah. Once things got to Ada County. Latah, I didn't recognize. Oh, Twizzlestick is saying that Jay Logston walked past him in Latah County, but Twizzlestick didn't recognize him either. Somebody said the day the wheels fell off the wagon was December 23rd. What do you make of this? December 23rd is when the wheels, I don't know. That would have been exactly what? 4 days after the alleged phone call to the team's meeting in Moscow saying, please look at Mr. Kohberger, happened. I have no idea what December 23rd, the significance is. Do you guys remember reading interviews? I think that it was the G family private attorney. He had just gotten retained, I think like the end of November, beginning of December, and he arranged for a meeting with the G family and the prosecution team. And they were told, now we can't, don't get excited, but we have a suspect. Seems to me that happened before December 19th, because there were some newspaper reports where they expressed concern about Brett Payne being the head of the case, saying that he only had 2 years of experience. This was too big of a case. They felt that he was over his head. Twiz the whiz. Oh, that's when they got the BK. Okay, hey, Twiz, that makes a lot of sense. December 23rd. They allegedly get the name. Now, it was the evening of the 19th, so it wasn't like it was the morning, so they lost the entire day. They got phone call comes in, team meeting sometime in the evening. So really the 20th was their first full day. You had Mallory, right now getting the warrants out. So what Twiz is saying, he thinks that's when they got BK's cell data from the pen, trap, and trace, Twiz, the pen, trap, and trace, and they made BK fit with the crime. What do you mean, Twiz? Do you mean potentially by? Did you guys know who identified bushy eyebrows? Who identified Mr. Kohberger as having bushy eyebrows? The same person who was allegedly the clad in black guy that was seen by DM 4-something a.m. on November 13th. No one. Yes, Stone, 100%, 100% Stone. Take away that question mark. You are 100% correct. It is in the affidavit of probable cause. Detective Payne writes that he looked at Mr. Kohberger's license. Remember how they got the license? Because he had been stopped in August, and they got his, his name, rank, and serial number, cell phone number. They got his driver's license number. So Payne decides he's going to look up the driver's license. And he says, oh, okay, this guy's about 6 feet tall. Boy, and he's got bushy eyebrows. Yeah, he's got bushy. It was like, Payne, Detective Payne, since when does a detective make an ID? Isn't the procedure that you get 5 or 6 photos, you throw them down, or you bring in 5 people, and the witness identifies who she or he saw? Not the detective. It was Detective Payne in the affidavit of probable cause who identified Mr. Kohberger as having the bushy eyebrows that DM saw, or said she saw. She said nothing about bushy eyebrows that I can remember when Nunez, spoke with her. It was Detective Payne. I don't think he has bushy eyebrows, Meg says. Maybe Payne was jealous that BK had hair. Okay. So he left the park and drove through Lewiston. They claimed he left Moscow south on 95. You're talking about the pen, trap, and trace records, the records that came back on the warrants on the 23rd, not the 24th. That would have been Christmas Eve, the 23rd. Payne interviewed JD, not DM. Oh, no. Who did the interview of DM? Wasn't it Blacker? Well, we all know that it was initially Nunez, because that interview happened out in the street with everybody, all the other witnesses listening. You don't do that. You separate everybody. They should have taken everyone immediately downtown. Immediately. They're walking around, no shoes on. It's cold. They're hearing what's going on. They're learning that it's a quad, not 1, not 2, but 4. They're putting that together, standing out on the street. They should have taken them downtown. Well, from what I can recall, DM did not say word one when she was trying to make a description of who she saw. She said he had a mask. She didn't say anything about a baklava or how this, came about later. As a matter of fact, DM, once he was arrested, the clad in black guy. Yeah, Whitney, we've forgotten about that. The clad in black guy. Remember that from the PCA. She could not identify. Can you imagine? She would have been a hero to end all heroes if she would have said, yeah, that's the guy. She was not able to identify him. And so she told them no on the day of his arrest when she saw a photograph of Mr. Kohberger. Driving that date, she lost cell phone. Yeah, okay, so Kylie is reporting. Didn't Mrs. Chapin say that when she was driving that day to 11:22, she lost cell service? Through the Palouse. I'm not familiar with that area. I've never been. Closest I've been is Utah a few times, in Arizona. That's a little further south. I have no idea. I would imagine, those trees are so big and it's desolate area with mountains that there might be some dead zones where you wouldn't get service. She's been detained, especially. Yeah. Meg, the way that Warner was speaking about, imagine this is Chicago PD. Imagine this is Miami PD. Imagine this is New York PD. Whatever. Small town, Champaign, Illinois, whatever. Law enforcement's not called for 8 hours. They walk up to the front door. They see there's 4 people that have been unalived in the manner there was, and there's a guy standing there with what he had in his hand. I can't believe I just left those. Yeah. Agreed with you, Whitney, on that one. Okay, so Twiz is reporting that, for instance, on the way to Boise, I bet over 1/2 of it, I didn't have service. So what Twiz is saying is that he has driven to Boise for a couple of the hearings, and that he is estimating that approximately 1/2, that would be 50% of the time, he didn't have cell service on the way to the courthouse in Boise. Interesting. Wouldn't happen. I agree with you, MP. Meg, I agree with you. I think if this was any law enforcement agency in the world, they would have immediately asked the question, why weren't we called? Why weren't we called until just before noon? I don't believe that question was asked of anybody. Yes, we can make assumptions. People got scared. They didn't want to believe. I've been there. I've been one time in my life that I was terrified out of my skull. And what I knew, because I walked in, I'm looking for my child. I couldn't find my, walked in to the bedroom like 4 times. I still walked in 5th time because I didn't want to believe, what was right in front of me. So I could understand not wanting to believe it. When you make the call, then it becomes real and everything else. But still, law enforcement would have asked that question anywhere else. Cell coverage is definitely spotty. Never asked, right? Steve is saying, I think the Hamburglar would have done a better investigation on this one. Which now I'm hungry. Stone saying, Kylie is saying to Stone, what's that famous quote that they oh no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Wimpy. I'll gladly buy you Tuesday a hamburger today. People are talking about food. All right, guys, we're gonna call it a day. If we're getting on, we try to keep this under an hour and a half. We're going to be doing another live in a couple of weeks with Joseph. We'll have some additional stuff. Hopefully we'll have a sketch of Hitler to share, right? You're gonna work on that next?
Yes.
Or you're working on it now, aren't you?
Very much so, yes.
Okay.
Until next time, this is Joseph.
Thank you. Now, you going to do the Hitler from a couple of years ago where he had like that crown bit of hair, or are you doing the Hitler completely bald as he was at the hearings?
Better do it completely bald because now is now.
Okay. Same thing with Brett Payne, right? Okay. All right, Kylie. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Everyone, yes, we're all hungry. We're going to go hit the kitchen, maybe see if there's a hamburger in there. But thank you. Joseph Kylie is saying thank you. And Kylie, where are you tuning in from? I think it's down under. Maybe he'll be awake. My pleasure, Karen. It's our pleasure. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another live, give you an update on where we are with the film. And we're going to start doing a little bit of preparation work, looking at some festivals, Indie, of course, for submission. But you need at least a trailer, right, to submit. You need at least a trailer, right? So then it looks like it'll be early part. Okay, so Kylie said hello from Brisbane, Australia. Lunchtime for Kylie down under. The Watcher, have a great weekend, everybody. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Safe Halloween if you celebrate. Enjoy your day tomorrow. This is Kathy Twiz. Thanks for being here, everybody. Gee whiz, Kylie, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is Kathy signing out. Until next time. thank you for joining us here today on behalf of myself and Joseph. Okay, take it easy, everyone. Bye.
All right.
That was
That's how
pretty
you
good,
do your
huh?
podcast.